good evening to all of you. So we will continue with the discussion on environment and ecology and some left out topics which are important, which have not been discussed either in the class or in the current affairs, is what we will pick up for discussion today, so that there is a completion of environment and ecology, keeping in mind the needs in prelims in October 2021 and then the main exam in January 2022. Okay, so let's start the discussion. In the last class, what I can recollect, what I can recapitulate, that we completed the discussion on Project Tiger and everything related with Project Tiger. Before I switch over to important conventions or protocols, I would just like to have some discussion on Project Elephant as well. Project Elephant. Project Elephant as well. I would just like you to have this awareness that what is so unique about elephant as a as an animal, it is both wild as well as captive. Okay, and the captive elephant numbers have gone down in India, but when it comes to wild Asiatic elephants, almost India accounts for 60% of the population of wild Asiatic elephants. And I hope you are aware that Asiatic elephants are slightly different than African elephants. So we are talking about Asiatic elephants. We are talking about Asiatic elephants. Okay. So what I am just interested in telling you, that this Project Elephant, India is home for almost 60%, 60% of Asian elephant population of the world. Asian elephants population of the world, and this elephant is both wild as well as captive, right? Elephant is both wild as well as captive. Is this clear? Now, what I would like you to remember that and elephant later was declared as National Heritage Animal of India. Okay, so you should remember that national animal of India is tiger. National aquatic animal of India is Ganga dolphin. National bird of India is peacock. Similarly, national heritage animal of India is elephant. Okay, and it's a very large mammal, as far as elephant is concerned. And in India, if we see, the cultural aesthetic values which are attached and affiliated with elephant. So what I am just interested in telling you that this elephant, this Project Elephant, this was launched in the year 1992. It was launched in the year 1992. And why it was launched? Because we wanted to maintain the viable population of the wild Asiatic elephant, and we also wanted the welfare for captive elephant, and their numbers were decreasing like anything. The numbers were decreasing because of growing human-elephant conflict. Their numbers were decreasing because of habitat loss. Their numbers were decreasing because elephants were being killed. And I hope you are aware with the fact that why elephants are being killed. Elephants are being killed for tusk. their tusk has very huge economic value in grey market. The ornaments made from from elephant tusk and many other things which we use for decorative purpose has very high economic values, right? Very high economic values. Okay, so what I am just interested in telling you, that Project Elephant, wild and captive, both elephants are there. So it was launched in 1992 because they were being killed for tusk, poached for tusk, and habitat loss and growing human-elephant conflict. Okay, so Project Elephant was launched in which year? 1992, and this project was launched, as a central sponsored scheme, completely central government sponsored scheme, centrally sponsored scheme. Okay, and the objective of this scheme was to protect elephant, their habitat and corridors. So now one thing very important, okay, elephants are very mobile, they keep on moving from one place to other. So mobility is a very important facet about elephant as an species, and we cannot protect them only within the reserves until and unless we protect the corridors which they travel through or which they move through. So mobility of elephant, and you must be aware with the fact that they move with slow speed and they move when they enjoy the movement. So under this Project Elephant, which is a centrally sponsored scheme, the objective is to protect elephants, their habitat and even the corridors, right? To protect elephants and habitat and corridors, we launched this centrally sponsored scheme. Now within this centrally sponsored scheme, what government is doing? Central government is providing financial, technical assistance to elephants, right? To elephants. And how the central government is providing financial and technical assistance? Technical and financial assistance to those states which have, population of wild Asiatic elephants. If the state is willing to implement the Project Elephant, then under this Project Elephant, the central government is providing them financial and technical assistance. So center has asked those states, and particularly South Indian states, Northeastern states, Eastern Indian states have elephant population. In the west and completely in the north of India, we don't have, that much forest, and therefore we don't have that much elephant numbers. So under this Project Elephant, central government is providing financial and technical assistance to those states which have wild Asiatic elephant population, and they are willing to enforce this project within their state. Okay, have you understood? So this is very important. And within this, what we are doing means the technical and the financial assistance which is provided by central government to the states, we are trying for ecological restoration of habitat, habitat. Not only restoration of habitat, ecological restoration of habitat, but we are also, focused on mitigation of man-elephant conflict, mitigation of pair of captive elephant. Now this again is an issue, captive elephant. I hope you know we are using elephant even today for economic and other cultural, things. So they are participating in the rituals, performed inside temples and in many other marriage processions. You will find them being used. You will find them being used in other processions. Okay. And we are also using them to carry load. We are making them work. Thankfully, we have prohibited all form of cruelty against animal through law. But earlier we were using elephants even in, you can say, circus and many other things. Can you imagine, we used to enjoy when we used to force them to play football inside the circus. Against the wish, if you compel any species to do something forcefully, then what kind of torture it amounts to, I know, everybody knows. So this is something which so even welfare of captive elephant, that even while you are keeping elephant, there is a long list of do's and don'ts which we will have to follow. Okay, so welfare of captive elephant is also one component. Then veterinary care. Another component within this. Then, elephant rehabilitation and rescue center. Many of the elephants are meeting with accidents while they are crossing the road. They are hit by vehicle while they are crossing the railway track which passes through elephant reserve and forest. Sometimes they are hit by train. Okay, and so on and so forth. So even elephant rehabilitation and rescue centers. So all these are the components, right? All these are the components within Project Elephant, right? Within Project Elephant. And if I tell you that presently in India, we have around 50,345, approximately somewhere from 41,410 to 52,345 wild Asiatic elephants are there. We are carrying out, right? We are carrying out what? We are carrying out elephant census every 5 years. Next year we will be doing the fresh census in 2022. Okay. So 2017 we have done the last census. In 2018 we have done the tiger census. Again, we will be doing the tiger census in 2022. So 2022 is going to be an important year, and already the process has started for census. Even for elephant, we will be doing the census in 2022, for which the process has started. Right? Process has started. And I would just like you to remember that presently if we see in India, right? Presently if we see in India, So you should remember tigers, elephant census every 5 years. Elephant census every 5 years. Last census in the year 2017 and the next census will be in 2022. As per the last census, right, as per the last census which we have, taken. Okay. Now, one thing I would just like you, okay, Vandana Shukla is asking, as per 2000 census, 2017 census, the number has been estimated between 41,410 to 52,345. This is what is the number which has been estimated. This has been the number which we have estimated. Okay, this is the number which I have estimated. Now, right now, what I would like you to remember that, see, I don't know how many of you, do you know the method through which we count the elephants, right? And this is why the possibility of duplication is there. Okay, so one method is direct elephant counting method. Direct elephant counting method. Direct elephant counting method. Within this sighting, we will just spot them, we will find them where they are. Sightings. Okay. Second is indirect method. And this is what is a bit more scientific in its approach. So in an indirect method, counting is done by surveyors. And surveyors, they normally follow dung decay formula. Dung decay formula. Okay, so actually the fecal matter after decay will establish the individuality of that elephant. So surveyor will follow the dung decay formula method, where the dung of the elephant after decay is analyzed, and on that basis we establish individuality, and then we will count. So one is direct sighting, direct method, which is sighting, finding them where they are and then counting them. And then second is dung decay formula, in which very qualified surveyors will do some study of decayed dung of the elephant to establish individuality and to count. Now the last time, and we always find 8 to 9% variation in these two methods. Okay, so we always find 8 to 9% variation when we do the estimation of their numbers based on this. Now, if I tell you last time the census which we did in 2017, as per that census, the highest number of elephants are in which Indian state? Yes, any guess? Highest number of elephants in Karnataka. So 6,049. Followed by Assam. Second highest elephant population in India is in Assam, 5,700 19. Third highest, right? Third highest in Kerala. Third highest population is in Kerala, state-wise, if we see. And I don't want to trouble you with facts. I have the facts with me, okay? I have the facts with me, but I don't want to trouble you too much with facts. Karnataka has the highest number. Assam has the second highest number. Kerala is third highest number. Okay, but if we see, right, if we see region-wise, okay, so southern region in India has the highest number, 11,960 in southern part. Then northeastern part we have 10,000. Then east central region we have 3,000, and then northern region we have the 2085, right? 2085 is in the northern region. Okay, and I would just like you to remember that if we compare, okay, if we compare 2017 population with 2012 population, then there is a decline in number, and this is a cause of concern, right? This is a cause of concern. Okay, so let me just put it like this. Now, a 41,410 to 52,000, this is the estimation of Asiatic elephants, Asian. Muhammad Rahman is saying, I am watching 3 classes per day. Even then it is impossible to complete. My dear, why you have not watched earlier is the big question. Okay, so we cannot provide this kind of customized service that, if our content is there available for you for maximum number of days. And even then, if you are not able to watch the class, okay, you cannot place a request that we should keep it forever. We started the batch way back. Had the prelims been, in the month of July, by now we would have, completed the class and we would have deleted the class as well. Okay, anyway, come to topic, right? Come to topic. So, Asian elephant, I just want you to correct. Asian elephant number is 41,410 to 52,345. This is the estimation of IUCN, and within this, the Asian elephants in India are 27,312. This is the number of elephants, Asiatic elephants, wild Asiatic elephants in India. And this is why I told you that India accounts for almost 60%. So, one correction, 41,410 to 52,000 is the estimation of IUCN about Asian elephants, which are not only in India but in Bhutan, in Bangladesh, in Southeast Asian countries, and 60% of them, Indonesia, Thailand, okay, and 60% of them are in India, and as per 2017 census, the number is 27,312. 27,312. Have you understood? Right? Have you understood? Yes or no? Tell me yes or no. 27,312 elephants are there. Is this clear? In India, which state has the maximum population? Which state has the maximum population? This is also what you should remember from this point of view, right? This point of view. Okay. So that is there. In India right now, right? In India right now, if we see, one thing what I would just like you all to remember, this elephant reserves in India. Okay, let me just see. Just I will show you the elephant reserves in India. कहाँ है? Kashmiri militant. Yes. Yes. So what I was saying, so just give me 30 seconds. I want to show you one map. I am trying to import. Okay, so let's continue. Some बुला लो ना किसी को. Yeah. इसमें तो लिख सकता नहीं. इसमें डालना. Just give me 10 seconds. Then you will find South Indian states are there where we have the population, and outside South Indian states, so 52 elephant reserves are there in India. I just want you to remember that presently the way we have tiger reserves, similarly 52 elephant reserves are there in India. Okay, 52 elephant reserves, and 88 identified elephant corridors are there. 88 identified elephant corridors are there. So they will use these corridors to move. Corridors are there. Okay. So 52 elephant reserves are there. Okay, 52 elephant reserves are there, and these are the, these are the elephant reserves. These are the elephant reserves in India. You can see 32 reserves are there. I said 52. Okay, 32 elephant reserves are there. I am extremely sorry, 52 I wrote. Let me, 32 reserves are there, and 88 corridors are there. 32 elephant reserves are there, and 88 corridors are there. These are the 32 reserves. So you can see very well that in India we have, right, we have, you can see in Kerala we have elephant reserves, whether it is, Periyar, or whether it is, Anaimudi, or whether it is Wayanad, or whether it is Nilambapur. Okay. Similarly, in Tamil Nadu we have Nilgiri, Coimbatore, Annamalai. Okay. Sri Vili Puthur elephant reserve. In Karnataka we have Mysuru. Okay. Similarly, if you see Raila elephant reserve we have in Andhra. Okay. Then in Odisha we have elephant reserves. Mayurbhanj is there, Singhbhum is there. Okay, then Baitami Elephant Reserve is there. Okay, then Mayur Jharna is there. Okay, Mayur Jharna is in West Bengal, you can see very well. You can see elephant reserves, right, in Chhattisgarh. You can see in northeast, we have elephant reserves in Meghalaya, we have in Assam, so many of them in Assam we have, okay, so many of them in Assam we have, okay. So these are the elephant reserves. Kaziranga is there, Karbi Anglong is there, okay. Even in Arunachal we have reserves, okay. So 32 elephant reserves we have. 32 elephant reserves we have in India, and 88, identified corridors are there, okay. So this is what I want you to know about Project Elephant. Now, I would just like you to know a bit about some very important, right, some very important conventions and protocol, and within this, right, within this, I would just like you to know about this CBD, Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD. So you remember when I was talking initially about the Earth Summit in 1992 or the Rio Summit, I told you that because of the Earth Summit, right, because of the Earth Summit, what we were successful in signing 3 conventions. One was United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change. Then we were also able to sign one conservation for biodiversity, convention for biodiversity, United Nations Convention on Biodiversity. And third was United Nations Convention to combat desertification. Now when we signed this, when we signed this CBD, okay, this CBD, we agreed at Earth Summit in Rio in 1992 that one of the environmental problem which we are facing is very fast depleting biodiversity, and definitely human beings are to be blamed for the rate at which biodiversity is depleting, and that led to this CBD. Okay, so CBD, right, CBD has three main objectives. United Nations Framework Convention, United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity is having 3 main objectives. What are those? One objective is to conservation of biodiversity. So we want to conserve and protect the biodiversity. Second is sustainable use of components of biodiversity. So we should use not only the biodiversity but all its components. Sustainable use of the components of biodiversity. Okay, sustainable use of components of biodiversity. The third is the most important, fair and equitable sharing of benefits fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of utilization of utilization of genetic resources. So these are the three main objectives for Convention on Biodiversity, CBD. One of the convention which was, for which agreement was reached among the parties at Earth Summit. So we want to conserve the biodiversity, we want sustainable use of components of biodiversity, but the most important, that fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of utilization of genetic resources. Now you remember that I told you that if we see the distributional pattern of biodiversity on globe or on planet Earth, in lower latitude the biodiversity is high, but the technology to use the biodiversity is in higher latitude, developed countries, Western countries in high latitude. Now what's happening, that where biodiversity is, those countries don't have awareness about that, the plants which are in their forest, the species which are in their forest, to what extent they are important for mankind and planet. Many herbs are found in African, Asian, forest in equatorial belt, which can have wide range of utility for treatment of many disease. But for those plants, like any other plants, are the plants for the people in those regions. They don't know the value. So one part of the world has knowledge, the other part has the genetic resources. And how we will be able to conserve? Only when we will create a balance, and the most important, fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of utilization of genetic resources. What we see, that they will extract the herbs from the forest, and that component will reach to some drug manufacturing company, pharmaceutical company. But once they will, manufacture the medicine or the pharmaceutical, that is sold to very high price to these countries from where they extracted. So this is not fair. This is how we have realized that if we have to protect the biodiversity, if we have to conserve the biodiversity, then we will have to ensure fair and equitable sharing of benefits which are arising out of utilization of genetic resources. And this is what is one of the objectives related to Convention on Biological Diversity. And when it comes to Convention on Biological Diversity, to fix the responsibility of each party, this convention, right, this convention came in force since 1993. Since 1993, the convention came in force, and initially, to fix the responsibilities of different countries which are parties to this convention, it was decided that we will hold, COPs. So COPs, Conference of Parties. But this Conference of Parties is under CBD. This is under CBD. Okay, so Convention on Biological. So there is a separate COPs, there is a separate series of COPs going on under CBD, and there is a separate COPs going on under UNFCCC. So I am now talking about COPs under CBD. Initial years, 94, 95, 96, it used to be annual. Okay, it used to be annual. Okay, but later on, we decided that it should be biennial, once in 2 years, right? Biennial, once in 2 years. And in this series, I would just like you to remember, that if we see the COP, okay, so COP 15 under CBD was scheduled for 2020. This was to be held in 2020, but due to COVID-19 pandemic, it has now been postponed, right? It has now been postponed, and now this COP 15, COP 15 was earlier scheduled to be in which year? 2020, but it was postponed because of COVID. Postponed. And it was postponed because of COVID-19. Okay, now what is the new date? It was postponed for 2021, so October 11, 2021 to October 24, 2021. So 11th October to 24th October 2021, it will be at Kunming, and Kunming is in China, right? Kunming is in China, and this would be the COP. Now, I hope you all are aware with the fact that, this will be decided. This will be decided whether it will be COP 15 or it should be considered that the COP 15 got cancelled, but it has been decided that it will be COP 15. Originally, it was scheduled for 2020, but because of COVID-19, it was postponed, and now the COP 15 will be at Kunming in China from 11th October to 24th October. Okay, 24th October. And the theme of this, right, the theme of this COP 15, very important from your prelims point of view, ecological civilization. This is the theme, ecological civilization, building a shared future, building a shared future for all life on earth, for all life on earth. Ecological civilization, building a shared future for all life on earth is the theme. So a day after your prelims this year, when the COP 15 under CBD will start, it is on this theme. On this theme. Okay, and in 2018, right, in 2018 was COP, because every 2 years COP 14 was in which year? 2018, and this COP, COP 14 under CBD, Convention on Biological Diversity, in 2018 was held at Sharm el-Sheikh. And where is this Sharm el-Sheikh? Sharm el-Sheikh is in Egypt. Okay, is in Egypt. And when it was held in 2018, the theme was investing in biodiversity for people. Investing in biodiversity for people and planet. People as well as planet. Okay. So investing in biodiversity for people and planet was the theme of COP 14 under CBD, which was held at Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. And I would just like you to remember that this, CBD, right? This CBD, it concluded with Sharm el-Sheikh, declaration in 2018. When it concluded with a declaration. And that declaration is, related with, that has gone down in the history as Sharm el-Sheikh Declaration. And this Sharm el-Sheikh Declaration is about governments which have committed to mainstream biodiversity. Governments have actually committed to mainstream biodiversity. Mainstream biodiversity. Mainstream biodiversity. Okay. In Sharm el-Sheikh, it was decided that one international alliance of nature and culture, IANC, IANC will be launched. A decision was taken that an international alliance of nature and culture, okay, nature and culture will be launched. I hope you know that 2011 to 2020 was the International Decade on Biodiversity. And at Sharm el-Sheikh, all parties have agreed that we will launch an international alliance for nature and culture. And it was also decided that United Nations General Assembly will designate 2021 to 2030 as UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration. UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration. Ecosystem restoration. restoration. United Nation, decade for ecosystem restoration. It was decided that all the parties will declare, right, will declare this. So what I am just trying to say, you should remember, right, you should remember that this is going on, right, this COP is going on under CBD, and India is playing a leadership role. As far as parties are concerned, I hope all of you are aware with this fact that all the countries of the world have signed and they have ratified. Okay, all the countries of the world have signed and they have ratified the Convention on Biological Diversity except US. So US is a party to CBD, but US has not ratified CBD, Convention to Biodiversity. And why US is not? Why US is not? Because under this convention, developed countries have to provide funds to developing countries, okay, for protecting biodiversity. And fund is to the tune of 200 billion US dollar. Okay, so CBD has demanded additional 200 billion US dollar from developed economies to be diverted towards developing countries for managing nature, and this should be by 2030. If we are able to provide this much additional fund, then only we will be able to protect. So what I am interested in. Okay, what I am interested in telling you that this is what you should remember. So Kunming in China this year in October will be the COP15 under CBD. Okay, COP15 will be under CBD. Now, right now, what I want you to know, right, what I just want you to remember, that in related with biodiversity, you have Nagoya Protocol, related with the biodiversity, related with COBD, we have Nagoya Protocol. Okay, and this protocol was signed during COP10, and this COP10 was held in 2010, and it was held in Nagoya, Japan. So under CBD, right, under Convention of Biological Diversity, COP10 was held in 2010, at Nagoya. This Nagoya is in Japan, and where we'll, all the parties agreed that there will be a new protocol, and that protocol, was, became popular in the name of Nagoya Protocol. And if you ask me to explain you Nagoya Protocol, I just want that this Nagoya Protocol is related with this third objective of CBD, fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of utilization of genetic resources. So just write down that Nagoya Protocol, which was signed, at Nagoya in 2010 during COP10 under CBD. Okay, Nagoya Protocol relates with the fair and equitable sharing of benefits, arising out of utilization of genetic resources, Okay, so basically it is a supplementary agreement to CBD, right? It is a supplementary agreement to CBD. Why supplementary? Because it has fixed the role for each parties about the third objective, which is under CBD. So under CBD, there are three objectives, and one of the objective is this fair and equitable distribution. And if we see Nagoya Protocol, basically it talks about, creation of greater legal certainty, and transparency for both providers and users of genetic resources. Providers as well as users of genetic resources. So, okay, genetic resources. Have you understood? So this is what is Nagoya Protocol. Nagoya Protocol relates with Convention on Biological Diversity. It is a supplementary agreement, and this supplementary agreement is related with fair and equitable distribution of benefits arising out of genetic resources, and to ensure that fair and equitable benefits arising out of genetic resources, this Nagoya Protocol talks about, creation of greater legal certainty and transparency whosoever is providing genetic resources and whosoever is using genetic resources. For both the parties, greater legal certainty is there, transparency is there under Nagoya Protocol. And when COP10, right, COP10 was being held in Japan, Nagoya, one day during the talks, the parties, representatives, they met at a place called Aichi. And there the party agreed that there will be targets to be achieved, and that became popular in the name of Aichi targets. Okay, Aichi targets. So the parties decided that 2011 to 20 will be the United Nations International Decade on Biodiversity, and during this decade, right, the world will achieve biodiversity targets. World will achieve biodiversity related targets, and these targets were termed as Aichi targets. And within Aichi targets, 20 targets are there. But these targets are divided into 5 categories, and these categories have been termed as goals, a strategic goal. So you should remember 5 strategic goals, and within 5 strategic goals there are 20 targets to be achieved by world in 10 years during the UN International Decade on Biodiversity, 2011 to 2020. Okay, 2011 to 2020. But now the parties to Convention on Biodiversity have agreed that this 21 to 2030, right? 21 to 2030. What we will do? We will, work for ecological restoration. Okay, we will work for ecological restoration. So I hope, right? I hope all of you, understood, right? All of you understood that what is Aichi targets. Okay, what is Aichi targets? What is Nagoya Protocol? Okay, and what is Sharm el-Sheikh Declaration? Okay, City of Peace. Sharm el-Sheikh many times is referred as City of Peace. And this year, right? This year, what we are going to do? We are going to this Kunming. The parties will meet. Now, within the biodiversity, you should also remember Cartagena Protocol. Cartagena Protocol. Now, as far as Cartagena Protocol is concerned, okay, Cartagena Protocol is concerned, I just want you to remember this protocol is of which year? 2000. And this was again one of the COP under CBD, okay, and this Cartagena Protocol is on biosafety. This many times in the exam they have asked biosafety, Cartagena Protocol.